And so the World Cup semi-finals are here, and there is only one player who can be deemed essential in our squads going forward. And I'm going to tell you who that player is, because it's not someone that you will have thought of. No, it's someone completely out of left field, and I will reveal that to you later, who that player is. But first, we need to discuss the quarterfinals, how it ended up. And for my team, it ended with 98 points. I will read the team out now. It is Simon in goal with 7 points. Poro Cucurella both with 7. Koundé Digne also with 7. Gordon with 6. Dembele with 10. Jude Bellingham captain with the big 3 or the 30 points. 3 from Elise, 13 from Mbappe, and 5 for Leo Messi. And look, what you're saying there is, how have you managed to get the 7 points from the Spaniards? Well, it's because I played my clean sheet shield, and I was not planning on doing so. And then I was watching my man, the D unit, and he said, do you really think there will be clean sheets in the semi-finals? And I thought, well, I don't know, maybe. But if there's not going to be clean sheets, maybe that's the time to use them. But then I thought, maybe this is where I get my edge. Maybe this is where I can claw back some of those points that I lost with that messy mistake where I missed the deadline. So I activated the clean sheet shield. I brought in Pedro Porro, and I went for it, and it was a deviation from my original plan, but I have to deviate. I was 12.4k in the world when I started the quarterfinals, so I had to deviate from the original plan to try and make up that ground. I should have been 1.6k if I just remembered to bring in and captain Messi, and I missed the deadline by those 2 minutes, and it cost me 10,000 places in the rankings. So the plan changed. I had to take a risk, and I did, and it paid off in many ways. Fair enough. I brought in Pedro Porro instead of Kubasi. That didn't pay off. Lost 3 points there. And I had considered an extra hit, a -6. I took a -3. I had considered the -6 to sell Hakimi as well. And look, that would have paid off. Either I would have brought in Saliba or Kubasi, either of which you would have been talking 7 to 10 points if it had been Kubasi, 7 for Saliba, I believe. Can't remember if he got booked. But ultimately, I decided it was better to keep Hakimi for a couple of reasons. One, I wanted a cash cow for the semi-finals, and for 2, I just wasn't sure what the best way to go is. I didn't want to lock myself into a strategy for the last 2 rounds by selling Hakimi too early, and of course Morocco could have won, but they didn't. And to be fair, it only cost me 2 points in the end, because while I could have, if I'd have brought in Saliba for 7 points, then that would have been, I would have gained 3 points, but then I would have had to bench Elise, which would have meant losing another 2 points off instead of having to bench Hakimi. I'm losing my train of thought here. So really, I've only lost 1 or 2 points when everything's factored in. So it's not the end of the world, certainly not something to stress about. But yeah, Porro over Kubasi didn't pay off, with Kubasi taking that long-range shot that led to the winner. Not the end of the world. You can't get them all right. Pedro Porro did his job, and maybe he'll get one in the next round if I keep him. We'll get to that in just a few minutes when we talk about my transfers for the semi-finals, including that mystery player that you've all overlooked. But what I did do instead, like I say, my current rank was 12. My rank was 12.4k, so I had to take a gamble. And the gamble I took was to go with Gordon and Oyarzabal and Gordon over Baena and Kane, the 2 obvious popular picks. And I went for that, and that has paid off huge. And it's not just because Gordon got more points than Baena, and the more direct points from Gordon and Oyarzabal over Kane and Baena. It's not just from that, but also because it forced me into an alternative captaincy route. I went with Dembele in the first match. It was a worthy punt, very close to coming off, and I mean, very close to going completely tits up as well if Mbappe had scored that penalty, but he didn't. And it's crazy you don't lose points for penalties, but we take them, especially when we've got Lionel Messi in our teams because he misses them all. So it would have been it would have been nice if Dembele had done the business. He didn't outscore Mbappe, so I had to roll. And then I rolled to Oyarzábal, did nothing. And again, had to roll. Now, if I had had Harry Kane, I would have captained Kane, would have got 2 points. Did he get 3 points for a shot on target bonus? I'm not sure. Would have had Kane, would have been a disaster, would have rolled to Messi, would have ended up with a 10-point captain. Instead, because of this alternative route, I went with Gordon and Oyarzábal. I captained Jude Bellingham. And, 30 points from my captain. That's a massive swing. That is a 20-point swing from my captain. And, that is huge. It is. So the gamble paid off. The gamble of going different paid off. And now my current rank is 4,205th in the world, which is a massive, massive recovery from that disaster around the, Messi missed deadline. And look, if I factor in those 22 points that I lost from, missing that deadline, I would be 600th in the world. 600th in the entire world. I know that from looking at other teams who would be on 631 points, who are on 631 points. As it is, I'm 4,205th. However, if I had, we have to be honest, and I will be honest with you, like I always am on this channel. I'm not going to blow smoke up my ass. If I had ended the previous round at 1.6k with that Messi captaincy, I don't know if I would have played the clean sheet shield. I don't. I did it to try and make up the ground. I don't know if I would have brought in Oyarzábal and Gordon over Kane and Bayena. I don't. I don't know if I would have even sold Yamal instead of Ousmane Dembele, because the reason I kept Dembele was because I saw Mazraoui was starting centre-half for Morocco, and I thought, I'm going to have to take a chance here. I wouldn't have done that. I might not have done that if I was 1,600th in the world, because I would have played it safe. I would have thought, well, I'm going Mbappe. What's the point in keeping Dembele? I'll keep Yamal and have an alternative captain. So, maybe I would have played the quarterfinals exactly the same way I have done if I was 1.6k in the world. But hand on heart, I can't say I would have done. I can't say I wouldn't have played it safe and gone for Harry Kane, such a popular player who could have really hurt me. Because I was 12.4k, I took the gamble. Would I have done it otherwise? I don't know. We'll never know for sure. There's a world where I'm actually better off now because I missed that Messi deadline. And, maybe that is it. Either way, 4,205th in the entire world, 2.5 million players, to be 4,205th is an outstanding achievement at this stage. It's far beyond my wildest dreams when I started this game, putting my team in an hour before the deadline. And, I'm happy with it. It's not what it could have been, perhaps, but maybe it's better than it would have been if I hadn't made the mistake. So the question is, with only 2 rounds left, with only 4 matches of the competition remaining, because we do include the third place playoff, somebody, last time I wasn't sure if that was factored in. Somebody told me that the third place playoff, that's when the deadline is for the final match day. So now we know. So the question is how to push on in the semi-finals, how to push higher from that 4.2k rank. And that brings us to the only essential player you need in your teams for this round. And that player, the only absolute can't miss, must have, undeniable need to sign superstar player, that player is France's third goalkeeper, Robin Risser. Now, hear me out. You might say That sounds mad. What are you on about, Nightmare? Have you lost the plot again? No, I haven't. Because unless you moved early to dead spot one of your outfield spots, maybe bringing in a 3.5 million Norwegian defender last night, maybe bringing in Sander Berger from Norway in midfield, unless you did that, you will need funds to maximise your squad potential. And Robin Risser, the unheralded third choice goalkeeper for France, he is the key to doing that. Now, look, he does use up a vital France spot, but do you really want to go with, six starting players from France now, half your team French? I don't think it's necessary. It could be beneficial. I don't think it's necessary. But the thing with Risser, and this is why I think he's the key man, because he frees up so much funds. Most of you will have, Emi Martinez or Jordan Pickford in goal, 4.8 million, £5 million. Risser is 3.5 million, which means bringing him in for one of those two players frees up 1.3 to 1.5 million pounds, and that's crucial at this stage when all the bargain players have gone, when all the budget picks have been booted out of the competition and only the elite are left. These are expensive players remaining. Sacrifices will have to be made, and what better sacrifice to make than the Argentina or England goalkeeper, because neither are likely to keep clean sheets. Let's be fair. Neither have been great defensively. In either match, Mexico scored twice against England. Norway scored last night, a bit of a fluke perhaps. Great goal, some might say. I would lean towards a screamer because, why not? Argentina all over the spot. And now Argentina are up against Jude Bellingham and Harry Kane. England are up against Lionel Messi. Do you think either of those defences are keeping a clean sheet? Maybe if you've got your shield, maybe you could get away with it. But with both of them being weak defensively, even if Maignan from France and Simon from Spain concede, they're not likely to be outscored by enough from Martinez or Pickford in the semi-final. So I think it's pointless owning either Martinez or Jordan Pickford when you can downgrade and free up £1.3 million, £1.5 million, and that is massive in the context of the squad. £1.5 million is replacing Chadi Riyad from Morocco with Luca Digne, Jules Koundé, or Kubasi from Spain. It's Halal from Morocco to Nico O'Reilly. It's Manzambi or Baena to Anthony Gordon. It's, some of you had Saibari in your team. If you bring in Robin Risser, you can replace Saibari with Jude Bellingham. Jude Bellingham. And for me, at my team, it's a huge proportion of the funds to go from Oyarzabal to Harry Kane, and that is one of the transfers. Look, Risser won't get you the points, but Koundé, Kubasi, Gordon, Bellingham, Kane, they could get you a lot of points, especially if you factor in the captaincy. If you go from Saibari to Jude Bellingham, and then Bellingham gets another 15-pointer, that's 30 points. 30 points. And Emi Martinez isn't going to get you 30 points. 30 points more than Simon or Maignan, neither's Pickford. So that is why Risser from France is the most important, because he's the only 3.5 million goalkeeper left. Now, my team for the semi-final, as it stands, it's strong. I'm not going to lie. Simon in goal, Porro, Cucurella, Koundé, Digne in defence. Dembele, who I've captained, because I might go for it again. Bellingham and Elise in midfield, Messi, Mbappe and Oyarzabal up front with Anthony Gordon as a sub. I mean, that's strong. I don't need to do an awful lot there, but I want Harry Kane. I've only got 3 blank spots in my squad, and that means I can operate from a position of strength. Now, my priority, like I say, is Oyarzabal to Kane, but I need the funds. The easiest way to get them for me is to go Hakimi and Rangel to the mighty Robin Rissa and Medina from Argentina. Only 4 million, the only 4 million defender left in the game. You know, maybe Medina doesn't play, maybe it doesn't matter. He is the cheapest defender available. And even if he doesn't play in the semis, if Argentina get knocked out, if Argentina do get knocked out and they're playing that third place playoff, there's every chance Medina starts there and I've already got him. So it's not the end of the world. Now, if I bring in Medina and Rissa and I get Kane, that leaves me with two luxury transfers still to make and 0.1 million to spend. Now, one thing I could do is Pedro Porro and Manzambi to Kabasi and Mikel Merino. I quite like this. Merino is an interesting one. If he does nothing, it's not the end of the world because I've got Gordon on my bench and I would have Bellingham, Kane or Messi as well to come off, and I would need them to come off the bench, whichever one I start with on the bench. And if Merino keeps on having the impact he is, then, you know, he's, 2 goals in the last 2 games off the bench. He's only played about 15 minutes. I mean, he could be a huge differential. Who's going to go and get in a player only playing 6 minutes? But if you do, if I take that gamble, scouting bonus as well. And if it goes to extra time as well, you know, who knows what the lad could do. Beyond him, there are very few options in that price bracket who are worth bringing in. You know, there's only Paredes and Rodrigo de Paul from Argentina who are cheaper and are starting regularly. I mean, there's Baena as well, I suppose, to be fair, but I mean, he's around the same price anyway. And, you know, he got subbed quite early last time, so you might as well go for Merino, who's proven dangerous if you're bringing in a 1-point midfielder. The other problem I have is my triple Spain defence against Dembele, Doué, Barcola, Elise and Mbappe. I mean, it just doesn't feel great, does it? Especially without a clean sheet shield. So I don't know what to do about that. One thing I could do is instead of getting Kubasi and Medina in, I could get Tagliafico and Nico O'Reilly, and I quite like this option. Like, look, I've just said England and Argentina probably won't keep a clean sheet, but I also think it's unlikely Kabasi or Pedro Porro or Spain in general keep a clean sheet. Can Nico O'Reilly get an attacking return? I think he can. You see him at times on the edge of the area. He's a big lad, and on them set pieces, he can get his nut on the ball. He did it for Man City very effectively. There's always the chance. I quite like the option. And if I bring in O'Reilly and Tagliafico instead of Medina and Kubasi, that gives me a bench of Gordon, Tagliafico, and Nico O'Reilly for the second semi-final. So if Spain and or France concede, I've got 3 subs I can bring off my bench, and 2 of them are defenders, so it covers it. Fair enough. Maybe it's not possible in that circumstance to get 11 players with returns, but it's 3 subs that can come in and give you another chance. And maybe Nico O'Reilly keeps a clean sheet and gets a goal, and Tagliafico does nothing. Maybe Tagliafico keeps a clean sheet until 60 minutes, Medina comes on, and then Nico O'Reilly gets a goal. It could happen. Wouldn't be beyond the realms of fantasy. So I quite like that, especially because it means I can start with Bellingham, Kane and Messi in my team rather than on the bench. So in the worst case scenario, I've got all my best players starting in the starting 11, and I don't have to, because say Elise gets in an assist and I've got Lionel Messi on the bench, is it worth bringing in Messi for Elise when Elise has got a return? I don't know. There are other options. If I am prepared to take a hit and dead spot a midfielder, then what I could do is I could make these transfers, which are Rangel, Porro, Hakimi, Elise, Manzambi and Oyarzabal, to Rissa, Jordan Henderson Nico O'Reilly, Christian Romero, Harry Kane, and Lamine Yamal. And I'm not going to lie, that looks enticing as well. You know, it would mean my only subs were Christian Romero and Nico O'Reilly. But both of those players are a threat in attack and both could get a goal. And look, Elise is a great player, but from a fantasy perspective, I think he's been disappointing in the knockouts. And so has Yamal. There's no denying that. But at least Yamal has the penalties, you know? And also, Yamal is head to head against Luca Digne. And, Luca Digne, fair enough, he's doing all right, but it's Luca Digne. And when so many people have him, he is, we all know how Luca Digne goes. Fair enough, with the clean sheet shield. Fair enough, last round he did well, but, maybe if you got the clean sheet shield, you can be happy. But Yamal against Digne feels nice, perhaps nicer, especially with the penalties, feels perhaps nicer than Elise, who isn't looking like scoring, up against the best defence in the competition. So, as it stands, though, I am leaning towards keeping Elise and getting O'Reilly, Tagliafico, and Mikel Merino. I like that one, It's 3 playing subs. There's 2 players with potential scouting bonuses, although come the deadline, they might not have it. It just seems to me the strongest option. And if I go with that one, it gives me the starting team of Unai Simon in goal, Cucurella, Koundé, Digne in defence, Dembele, Bellingham, Elise and Merino in midfield, Messi, Mbappe and Kane up front. And I would probably captain Dembele, but we'll see. And then the bench would be Tagliafico, O'Reilly and Anthony Gordon, which is, they're good options to come off the bench in a pinch for the second game. Always a chance of them getting something, Will I take a chance on the captaincy? I might do, For one, I'm chasing, and that forces it. For 2, Harry Kane, great option. Bellingham, great option. Lionel Messi, great option. All against bad defences, average defences. And Mbappe did go off. He was subbed early. He did have ice on that ankle. Will he be 100%? We don't know. Will he play? Probably. You're not going to leave Mbappe out of You're not going to leave Mbappe out of a semi-final against Spain unless it's serious. Will he be 100%? I don't know. Is it a good chance to go against him with Dembele? I think so. Dembele, he nearly did him. If Mateta had scored them 2 chances, then Dembele would have got 2 assists and he would have beaten Mbappe in the last round, of course. If Mbappe had scored the penalty, it would have been academic. But it feels like I can still have a bit of a gamble there. Chips. We need to talk about chips. If you have both your maximum captain and your clean sheet shield, I think it's a bit tougher to decide than if you've only got one, but I would lean towards the clean sheet shield in this round in the semis, mainly because I think the semis are likely to be tighter than the final and the third place playoff. Like, if you were to tell me that both semi-finals ended 1-1 and went to penalties, it wouldn't be a surprise. And if you've got your shield, then you've got guaranteed clean sheets in that circumstance. Once we get to the third place playoff, we're going to see rotation, we're going to see squad players, we're going to see, the handbrakes are off and people are going to, there's going to be goals in that game. And we might not even have the transfers to get players for it anyway. So now, maximum captain, there's a possibility I play it in this round because I think the most points come from England and Argentina, but asking me to call which one out of Messi, Bellingham and Kane gets those points, it's a tough question. It feels like a three-sided coin toss, pick your player and just see what happens. So for me, it maybe makes more sense to play the maximum captain in the final. But we have to remember, if it's Spain and Argentina in the final, is anyone likely to outscore Lionel Messi, who's in our teams? I don't know. I don't think so. I think if it's a Spain-Argentina final, there's going to be an awful lot of transfers made in those attacking fields because I think England and France will rotate, you know. We'll all be captaining Jean-Philippe Mateta, but in that third place playoff. So for me, I think it's going to be a France and England final. And in that circumstance, Dembele, Elise, Mbappe, Kane, Bellingham, Anthony Gordon, I just think it's hard to call. And the maximum captain is best for that match. It just is, you know. And the other thing as well, you've got to think for emotional reasons. If England get to the final, I don't want to be sat there watching it with, say, Bellingham captain, getting frustrated because Harry Kane has scored 2 or 3 goals. I don't want to be sat there even for a second thinking, bloody hell, I wish I'd gone with Kane, you know, or don't score that Kane, square it to Bellingham. I just don't want those thoughts in my head. I want to be able to be fully locked on the match, on the result, rather than who creates the result. So for psychological reasons, there was a little wasp in front of my camera there. So for psychological reasons, I think maximum captain for me, you know, the way my head works, the way I play the game, it makes sense to keep it for the final. And, you know, also psychologically, it means you go out of the game, you finish the game with the best possible captain. So you're going to get more points no matter what. And I just think that's a nice way to end what has been a very fun game, this World Cup Fantasy. So there we are. Remember, Robin Risser, the key man. Make your transfers, take your chances, dare to go against Mbappe in that first match, knowing that you have elite options in the second semi-final. Let's hope England get there. Let's hope this is the year England can do it. Maybe you want a different team, but I don't. I want England to win, and I think they can do it. Thank you for watching. We will see you next time.